It's my great honor to introduce Paul Deckard. Paul and I have been friends for 15 years. We've worked on a number of projects together, and like many of you out there, our intent is to either eliminate, at least reduce, the toxic chemical system that we have in ag, and I'm certain that this is something we all have in common. Now, the big issue for farming is how do you become profitable under those conditions? You don't want to continue the high inputs, so how do you convert to a low input system that produces better fiber and food and grain, and at the same time you are profitable? And that's really what Paul's all about. Paul's at a stage in his career now where he wants to give back to the community that's been so good for him. And his heart's in the right place. I've known this guy a long time. He has this beautiful gift, God-given gift, of recognizing what works on farms. And then he calls me up and says, "Hey, Lawrence, you got to figure it out." So that's the kind of relationship we have, and it's been great working with him. So, Paul Deckard, everybody.
Thanks, Lawrence. Thank you. Well, good morning. I'm Paul Deckard. And Lawrence, appreciate what you said, and it's the first time he's ever nice to me, so it's kind of a weird feeling for me. But it's right. I mean, I kept getting things, umptions, and I am totally a creationist, and I give honor to the one who calls himself I am, and the Father, the Lord Jesus Christ, the Christ that saved by grace on the cross. Okay, so and I'm going to be cool with it. And I'm cool with anybody who isn't. It's not what it's about. But what I'm doing is very, very real. I was in a pickle. And, biological farming, there's a lot of good people wanting to biological farm, conventionally and organically. I don't take sides. If you're a farmer, you're a farmer to me. How do I help you in your reality? There's where I'm at. And I was going to bring my shovel in, and I forgot. But then I thought, with today's atmosphere, I probably shouldn't have a shovel in a hotel or an airport or anything like that. So, and it is my number one tool, number one. The computer's nice and the numbers are fun, but the shovel's number one in my experience. So, what we're trying to pursue is biology. And this is biology that you can see, the end result. And this isn't ground it's sand. This is Wisconsin. We farm in Wisconsin. We farm a sandbox. That's what we do. In fact, I think we sell some of our ground to sandbox people, really. But biology is the goal of everybody in here. Because in one form or another, we, as a group, know that microorganisms are very powerful and can grow your crops. And they're very, very smart. Anybody who doesn't think they are, please understand that microorganisms and cells built you. And they attached your tendons in your foot and your nerve endings to your brain. So you know when you stub your toe. Now that's some pretty sharp little creatures, right? Because something is in them. Energy. The soil is alive, and we know it. But how do we get more consistent? Biology. Look at how far down the roots that this type of program is creating nodules. It's hard to see on this, but those are fairly pink. You can see the pinkness to them, even though it's a photo and it's all blowed up. Because not only do we have them, they're full of nitrogen. And our bean production is amazing, both organically and conventionally. Another goal, and we all know it, biology allows larger life to show up. How many people in here, you don't have to raise hands or nothing, I don't put anybody on the spot, but the worm castings have been tested. Okay, so we're buying a lot of trace packs and micronutrients and stuff to feed our plants, but we washed these out of the root zone. I'm assuming sooner or later that worm poops somewhere in that root zone. So the earth is very good at feeding itself if we would create an atmosphere to allow it to do so. Okay? Think about that. If the worms are there, that means there's worm castings there, which means trace elements are there. So I'm a pretty simple guy, so it's easy for me to figure that kind of stuff out. I don't get all mixed up. So here's another photo of the same thing on our program. See that bad boy right there? I think he's actually putting some zinc right there. No, I don't know that. But anyway, what I'm saying is life creates life. And we've been trying to create life with chemistry. Well, it's like trying to grow a bouncing boy on potato chips instead of potatoes. It's not healthy. He's not going to be healthy. She's not going to be healthy. Neither is your plant. Neither is your plant. We need to put meat and potatoes down. And when we do that, how long is it going to stay alive? So, biology is fun. I get it. Here's another thing. The one thing I oppose, now being somebody that's all about the bugs, I understand what fungi does. It creates ammonium nitrate while you're sleeping. When you're at the ball game, it's creating ammonium nitrate. And I know you should price that out sometime and try to estimate how much money you're making 24/7 or once a week because of fungi. Breaking down residue creates ammonium nitrate. So I oppose, we need to reduce as fast as we can fungicide. Fungicide means it's killing everything that's fungal. But fungal makes you money. Residue doesn't make you money. Residue breaking down makes you money. Okay? We got to remember that. So I try to wean my clients off of fungicide. Never do anything knee-jerk. Your land, your soil, it knows you. Just like when you walk through your cattle knows you. So whatever you have done as a habitual habit, your ground has had to adjust to it. Period. And so that's how it exists. And I very much encourage everybody who owns land, walk on it. Go out in it. Get to know it. Feel it. Walk barefoot once in a while. What the heck, right? Anyway, biology is in compost. And what I'm going to unravel for you today is pretty amazing. This is just a blown up portion of the first one I showed you, just to show you it came from somewhere, which is a sample. You got 0.74 here in the compost when we took a sample of it under our philosophy of composting, okay? And we do have a very unique way of composting, and we do not vary it, and we control it no matter how big the feedlot. My organization controls it because we don't want to be in the business of dehydrating manure because it's not converted. So we need to make sure we are doing something that allows that manure to compost. Okay? So now we have these numbers here on compost. We put our patent pending Calcite into the program at this point. And it's not a lot. Why would I do that? Because I've been a dairy nutrition person for many, many years. And I understand bugs. I know how to kill them, and I know how to grow them. So when I put the Calcite into this compost, what is the compost going to do? The compost is going to recognize that I did that because the compost is alive. It's alive with all kinds of microorganisms. And then they are going to grow the families that are going to deal with that little bit of calcium I put in there. It's the same way you can do many other things. When you put something in the compost will recognize it and build families to deal with it. So I had a little bit of bump on nitrogen. 2 weeks later, I took a sample. A little bit on potassium, but potassium's all over the board. Potassium is very air-oriented. Okay, that's why I'm a minimum till guy. I am not a no-till guy. You need air. If you don't believe me, cover your mouth for a while. And pretty soon your bowel system is going to want you to breathe. Okay? So I'm a minimum till guy. Till when you need to. Anyway, your phosphorus this came up a little bit. We know now from other people's information, understand this is not all my information. And that's why you don't see my name on my websites and stuff. I have met so many awesome farmers. There's no way I can go back and thank every one of them. So the way I'm thanking them, plus, I'm getting older, so I can't remember all of them. But anyway, is I'm going to give this back. So you have the same information that you could start winning more often in your biological farming. Okay, so what I'm telling you is phosphorus is actually grown in your ground. It grows. Everybody keeps calling it a rock. But I'm going to tell you what, microorganisms and stuff poop it out. It's in their poop. So phosphorus can grow. Anyway, because I didn't put any phosphorus in there, but it grew. That's interesting. Anyway, 2 weeks later, after I took the sample, I cut it in half with calcite. So half of it is compost, and half of it is calcite. So all the numbers, I put no phosphorus, no nitrogen, no magnesium, or very, very little, like a 0.56, I think. Very, very small. Anyway, in 2 weeks, I pulled another sample. It grew back. To my amazement, the nutrients grew back. They should have been in half. Should have been half that, half that, half that. But it grew back. So, I want to make sure that I'm not, messing anybody up. So I do it again. But this time, we get a bigger, badder, meaner compost. Look at these numbers. This is our starting numbers. Turkey compost. This is our number one organic turkey compost. Anyway, 4, 3, 3, 5, 5, 7. Same scenario. Around the 7th to 8th week, we introduced the patent pending calcite. Okay? And then we cut it. After that, we take these, we look at this. Not a lot of movement. Looks like some of it went down. Remember I said, this is a bigger, badder, meaner, there's a lot more nitrogen. So it acts different. Okay? But then we put the calcite, cut it in half. And what happened is the same thing. This should be a 2 something. It's not. This should be a 1 point something. It's not. You see where I'm going with this? So what did it do for me? What it did for me is it told me there's organisms in that compost that took a photo of their atmosphere. So that would relate to the fact that there's probably a code. There's a code. It's almost like somebody built it. So the code is in you, it's in the cows, it's in the ground, it's everywhere. And so when you learn how to feed that code, the code flourishes. Okay? So if this is true, which it is, by the way, because it just keeps doing it, right? Is we're going to win. Because now we know we can do this, right? Okay, but then what happened? Why do we have all this plating? Why is the soil not cooperating with us? And the bioavailability of calcium is in trouble. When you put this into a compost situation, you are breaking this thing down and making it more real. You're not just throwing rocks around. Anyway, here's another photo. This is where that shovel thing comes in. You got to look. Look at these sharp edges. Look how much tilth and flocculation you have here, and then boom. Game over, right? Why? Why is it not working? Same thing here. You have flocculation here, and then it starts to get platy again. And when the ground plates, water goes this way. It doesn't go this way. These get uglier. This one's a game changer. If I go out on your ground without looking at your sample, I'll guarantee you're going to have high mag, base saturation, and low bioavailability calcium. Because you'll have the calcium, will be the magnesium's tying you up. Look at here. How old is that? How old is that stem? That's been there a while. There shouldn't be all this down here. There was no crop growing here when I did this. Why is it still there? You don't have a microbial army digesting it. How come it isn't working? Usually, just for fun, when you're walking people's ground or your own ground and you see fall panicking, if everybody knows what fall panicking is, you take a shovel and flip that over, and that's exactly how your ground's going to look. And that's a guarantee. Check it out. See if I'm telling you the truth. So, that was my question to my boss. Why isn't it working? I'm running 55% success in biological farming. I'm an extreme competitor. From the day I was born, I've been very, very competitive. So I asked the boss, why doesn't this work? I had all my samples separated by dead even and wins. Wins to me is 5 bushels to 35 bushels. Okay, 5 bushels to 35 bushels. And I did say 35. So why am I not working here? When the pH is 7 on both grounds, or it's 6-8, how come I win here, but I don't win there? And what happened next is right in here, right in the center of my chest. I hear separate or divide the pH by the CEC. So I got busy, and I've had this relationship for a long time, so I know who it was. So what I'm telling you is I started to do that. And then when that happened, I had all my wins in one pile, all my losses in another pile, like I said, and all the ones that were losses had the same number. They were under the same number, a 0.4. Okay? So over time, now this doesn't happen overnight. Okay? I didn't like all of a sudden we know everything. There's where Lawrence Mayhew comes into the game. Because I'm figuring this out. I'm like, okay, somebody a lot smarter than me needs to help me figure out the rest. And we, together, started to understand what we were doing. And we needed a neutral. And when we did that, we've done this in 9 states in 2 different labs. My favorite lab is Midwest Laboratories. And I don't want to pick on any other laboratory, but they've been so good to us and so helpful with their information. They're just wonderful to work with, so that's who we work with. But anyway, I did test it in other ones, right here. Also, it has worked from 5 pH to 8.6, and a CEC from 5 to 42. The 42 was peat ground, okay? So not uncommon for peat ground to have a really high CEC. So what I'm telling you here is you take the pH and you divide it by the CEC, and right here on this part right here is the division. And 0.5 became the microbial scale neutral. I have separated the two. So the one you know now is chemistry farming pH. This is the introduction of microbial neutral. Does that make sense to everybody? So I'm not changing the pH scale that we've known for how many years, but I'm using science that has already been alive, but it didn't get finished. And we're finishing it. If you want your microbes to stay alive, we need to stay above a 0.4. So when you take that same 7 pH, which you should feel very comfortable about, on a 14 CEC, your crop is going to grow really nice, right? What's going to happen, though, if you have a ground that's 22 CEC, is you're going to dump down to 0.32. That's acidic. It's under a 0.4. Those were my dead evens. Nothing happened. When I had high CEC, and it was higher than, to drive it under a 0.5, or under a 0.4, excuse me. Okay? We also give organic matter a buffer number, but not until it's above 2. And so that is on here also, and 2. And so for every 1% of organic matter increase, we're going to give you a 0.01 on the scale to help you manage your scale, okay? I have this on zip stick, so if you want it, we'll put it in your computer, whatever, okay? Just so you know, I'll do that before we leave. Okay, now the coolest thing that I discovered, we discovered, because I wasn't working alone anymore, okay? I was alone in the basement when I heard it. I get that part. But now that I have it, then I'm not alone anymore because I got friends like Armin Miller back there and Lawrence Mayhew and Eddie. We are working to make this better, okay? This is awesome because I was in Colorado on 8.6 pH, which I was taught you can't grow big corn on 8.6. It's too alkali. You need sulfur. You need this. You need that. Okay? Thank God I didn't say anything to the farmer other than look at his sample, because when he said to me was 275 bushel, which said to me, Paul, don't say anything. Just keep your mouth shut and start learning. How did he do that? I'm back in Wisconsin, and I'm standing on 5 pH. I'm looking at the sample, and I'm looking at 201 to 202 bushels on sand on a 5 pH. No, you need 14 ton of lime. No, you don't. Because guess what? 5 divided by 10 CEC is neutral. 8 divided by 16 is neutral. How many times have we put sulfuric acid through a pivot or whatever trying to get the alkalinity down because the crop isn't going to grow? And how many times have we put on 1 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton, 4 ton? As high as I seen a recommendation one time, I wanted to drive over and hit the guy. 14 ton of lime per acre to fix his field. Okay, in my book, that's criminal, just saying. But here's the real truth. This is what we're doing. Now understand, I went from 55% success to 98%. I can already survive financially on 55% because I'm gifted in sales. Okay? I can pull it off. But it wasn't good enough for me as a person. I want to win more often. I need to win because there's something in me. I don't know what it is. But anyway, 98. And the reason I'm going to say 98 is because sooner or later somebody's going to mud my crop in. That does happen. Some farmers still mud their crop in. It's weird. But they do it. So what I'm telling you is this thing is that I don't have it perfected. But if I give it away, I bet there's people in here that when you get to working on this pH to CEC scale, it's going to get fine-tuned. It's going to get better and better because more people know about it now. Okay? Because I'm throwing it out there. If you will not allow me to put on 1,000 pounds of high calcium lime or a cover crop or both to fix your acidity, my companies will not do business with you. You have a nice day. We weren't broke when we showed up, and we won't be broke when we go home. If you won't behave, we're not going to play because we don't want a black eye. We don't want mud in our face. Okay? Even though we sell poop for a living, we still have a little pride left. Okay? So, I'm just saying that we have to realize that this thing works and you respect it. Because it works. Now, this is common knowledge. 6.4 to 7.2 is usually good chemical farming opportunity under a normal situation. The same thing is on our scale. The microbe scale. So it's not the pH scale that you're used to. That one's still the same. It's for chemical farmers. For hydroponically growing product. Okay? And it still works for them. But if you want to grow it with bugs and manure and composted properly manure, then you need to understand this. But between a 0.45 and 0.52 are my biggest wins. When I'm into the 35s and 40s and 50s bushel increases, remember, I'm lowering the cost of input at the same time. Because not only do I understand this kind of stuff, I also understand money. And if I can come to your farm and I can lower your input and increase your output, typically they like me for a while. Then they get to know me and then they unlike me. But, because I'm too pushy. But I'm passionate. I want you to win. As a farmer, I want you to win. And so I'm going to make comments about your population. I'm going to make comments about how you're not tilling, completely not tilling. I'm going to make comments, but you're still the owner. You own your ground. You farm it the way you want to, but I'm going to tell you the way I believe it, and you have to make that decision, not me. So this is big. But if you get below a 0.4, does not work. Does not work. If you are in the business of selling biology, maybe in here, I'm going to tell you what, you go back to your losses that you were trying to keep your farm going with bugs, and you failed on this farm, but not that farm. You look at your soil samples, and you will see that I'm right. It's amazing. I know I was amazed. I was like, how am I going to do this? No one's going to believe this, big guy. Anyway, it worked. So this is our organic matter buffering factor. Okay? So here is the organic matter 1, 2, you're 0, 0, 3, 1, and then here's the actual credit to your pH scale. So obviously your goal needs to be up here around 11. The other reason I'm doing this is because I heard of people trying to fix their ground and they want to do it by doing nothing. That was weird to me. But my farms, some of them are wanting their sons and daughters to farm their ground. They need to make money today. What I'm showing you will help you make money today. So I believe that what I've been given is a bridge to less tilling. Notice I didn't say no tilling. Anyway, so what I'm telling you is this, that you can no-till better if the ground underneath it is being tilled by worms and all that. So let's grow all that first. There's no religious status. Nobody's mad at you other than yourself if you till your ground. But don't overdo it. Be smart about it. And then, as your ground is healthy and breathing, then start to do less and less tilling. But remember to open it. Because unless you just want to buy potassium the rest of your life, you need to open it up. Because you need air. And you need sodium in order for that to grow. And it's very volatile. It's associated. Water messes with it. Everything messes with potassium. So, when you have a system like the one I'm introducing you today, you can go out to a percentage of your farms that have been on your program for 4 to 5 years, and that's a penetrometer. It never went over 300, and you can see that I'm down to the knuckle, so that's 21 inches. And I just pushed it in. I had an alfalfa field that had been harvested for several years, 5th year in our program. Okay, so that's a lot of wagons, right? A lot of traffic. Well, that's what's compacting your soil. I did the same thing on the alfalfa. Compaction is dead soil. You're not the only thing that ever walked on the earth or drove on it. Okay, it can take care of itself, but you got to have biology to do it. This is the other goal. This is down in Texas. And I don't know why people farm in Texas. It's hot. My feet get hot from underneath. It's so hot. They don't water the crop to feeding they're trying to cool the crop down. That's how hot it gets. Anyway, this farmer's been with me now 5 years. He's coming to my meeting on December 14th up in Reedsburg, Wisconsin, and he's going to be there to explain to people how he grows 53 ton of product, double cropping, with only 140 pounds of nitrogen for the whole year. Just saying. You're a pretty happy camper. So, once again, this is the first worm seen in 10 years on that farm. Quick funny story. So now he's got pivots that you can see the worm castings from the pickup. Not all of them. Some fields respond better than other fields. And so we're driving along, and I don't know if you picked up on it yet, but I got a little bit of a sense of humor. And he says, look at all those castings. And I said, yeah, that's awesome. That was the goal. Now you got worms out there doing this job for you, right? And he goes, well, where'd they all come from? Well, I don't know if you know this, but when you farm in the desert, so then you have the circle, and then you have a desert. Sagebrush, okay? That's the way it looks. So I said, well, obviously, the worms out in the sagebrush thought it was better over here and came over here. Scott's kind of joking around, And he goes, wow, that's amazing. I said, whoa, wait a minute. I wasn't totally telling the truth there. So, and then I explained that those eggs are there. Everything is already there, people. Everything is there. It's always been there. It can be there for 1,000 years. It doesn't matter. But when the atmosphere is right, they come. They grow. Prime example, dandelions. Totally atmospheric. First year, hey, look how clean it is. My alfalfa's so clean. End of the second year, there's end of the third year, what do you got all over your alfalfa? Dandelions. Why? Compacted soil. Anyway, now that is 4 foot. The roots are getting down into, see that root? That's from up there. See these roots? That's biology working. That's the pH to CEC ratio working. Because remember what I told you, if you don't fit inside that box, we don't do business with you. Because I can't afford a black eye. Because some people don't want me to succeed. Okay? Which is just a business decision. I mean, it's not because I'm a bad person. But anyway, well, I don't think I am. Don't call my wife. But here's another one. Here's another one. It just keeps coming. We pulled that out. Here, look at this massive root system. Now, remember, I've been in this game for a while, so I know how to cheat. And so I made sure that this farmer planted the seed at 2 inches. Okay? Not 1.25 inches, not 1.5 inches, not 1/2 inch, 2 inches. Why would I do that? To maximize that plant's ability to grow right on top of the humus. Right? If somebody tells you you can plant at 1.5 inches, you should ask them to leave because it's not going to work. You will never beat me, that's for sure. Here's something else. People always, back home, remember we farm in a sandbox. So when you run out of water and when it quits raining, what happens to our crops? They start folding up. They start slowing down. They're just doing all they can to stay alive, right? But our fields that have this good system, good atmospheric nutrition underneath them, compost and some other things, but anyway, they drink the condensation. They're drinking the humidity. Because as soon as that baby canopies, I will not lose. Unless God completely turns the water off 100% and it's sunny for 35, 40 days, no clouds, no nothing, no break. Yeah, even my stuff dies. Okay? But I can't help that. But if you get any kind of break at all, we grew through 70 days of no rain. And my business back home exploded. How did that happen? I didn't do it. All I did was feed the ground right. All you're getting today for free is the math. You still have to perform it. Even if you're a competitor to me, I don't care. I can't feed the whole world. I can't do this all alone. I need to have help. And I mean in work, not help in here. Okay, just saying. And so how are we doing this? Look at this. This is one farmer, and this is the same field. This side of the field, 2 years on the program, and 2 years not on the program. Can anyone see the difference? Okay? This is the kind of activity we are having. Why is the companies that I'm associated with growing so fast? Because it's getting around. I didn't ask to come down here. I was asked to come down here. And I thought, you know what? This is a good opportunity to give this thing away to some really good people trying to grow things organically and biologically. Whether you're a competitor or a farmer. Doesn't matter to me. You need to know this. Look at that. Look at that. So it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't some kind of, and look at here, just, whoops, that was my bad. Look at this. Sunbathing, ow, ow, ow. You know, are you laying on the beach like this? The sun dims a little bit early in the season when I lay out like that because it really sucks up a lot. But look at the leaves. Look at the leaves. Same farmer, same planter, same. And by the way, this person's a full boat customer now. Just saying. Look at this towards the end of the season. Look at the girth on these plants. Look at those leaves all the way out to the tips. A little bit of, stress there. But look at this. Same fertilizer. All he's doing is my carbon. We can buddy up with other fertilizer companies, no problem. But we're going to have to explain what they need to do different. But same planter, same everything. The only difference is what's underneath there. Atmospheric nutrition. We fed a living thing. The earth is alive. And that's the take-home message today. It's alive. How do we keep it alive? And be able to afford to do it. You understand that in our system, we're down to 55% reduction by the third year. By the third year. Not the end of the third year. The third year. If you could reduce your synthetic input by 55%, you do the math at home. These guys are awesome. It's the only photo taken of these brothers. They don't like their photo taken because they're shy. But I got one because I'm a really good friend with them. Anyway, this alfalfa, 3 years. They've been on the program for 5 years, but this is a 3-year-old stand. This is going back to corn. What we're standing in is going back to corn. How many people in here can do that? I'm just saying. And trust me, that corn grows big time with very low input. So, here's another farm, 3 years on the program. Here's another one of these. This kid is 6 foot tall. So anyway, look at that. We just pulled it. Just one of them pulled it out. And this guy he doesn't even use our compost. He only uses the patent pending calcites. Okay, that's it. Very economical. Same thing here. Remember, 6 foot tall. Boop. Wisconsin. So underneath there is sand. Some of our ground has got structure, but it's mostly sand. Here's a 5-year-old. He's coming to my meeting to talk about the successes on his farm and very low input now. This is on his dairy farm. He uses our compost further out where he rents ground, but where he has manure, he uses the calcium situation. And so this whole atmosphere is working again, okay? And I'm standing in this because this man actually has been biological for a long time, and he was with another good biological company before me. And then we tweaked it under our philosophy. And I'm standing out there because it's beautiful. That's beautiful corn. And this is in June. It's June. It's not July 4th. It's in June. And this guy is Vern. He's also coming to my meeting to explain how he grows 240 bushel corn with 4 pounds of purchased nitrogen. He is not organic. He could be, but he's not. He has his trigger finger on a herbicide when he needs to, but he hardly ever has to use it because he rotates his crops. He takes the manure, he composts it that he has from the heifers, and then he uses our philosophy and our liquid, but we do not have magical liquid. Anybody can make a very good liquid. It's not rocket science, okay? So he just happens to be on ours. Anyway, 240 bushels and 4 pounds of nitrogen. And that's to the elevator. That's to the elevator. Okay? And if you ask him how much he makes, on his 180, he says, well, when my checkbook is low, then I know I need to slow down. He wouldn't answer it. Okay? But trust me, he's making money. This is Triticale down in Texas. My business partner out there playing around in it. This is the neighbor. This is 14.5 to 14.7 tons. This is 17-something tons. And this is the one that's on the program 5 years. This followed corn. 53 ton worth of product came off that acre. Just saying. Here is, that's how tall I am. Here's how tall I am, which isn't really that tall, but I always wear boots to make me a little bit taller. But 53 ton is real. And look how big the seed output is. Here, for the people who actually walk out in their fields and don't just farm on a piece of paper and a tractor, there's the things that you're going to be looking for. See this? That doesn't look like a lot of nutrition to me. Where that is, it's the same thumb, by the way, same thumb. So I'm not cheating. And look at the health here versus here. And the width. Because all of our plants have more magnesium in them. We're moving magnesium up into the plants. We're not doing anything. I apologize for saying that. The microbes are breaking that stuff loose and making bigger solar panels. That's how I'm winning. I have bigger solar panels. I have more energy going to that plant to make seed. Because of the bugs, not because of me. This is a field of 80 acres of rye that went 100 bushel. Boom, that's a lot. And we had a heck of a time getting rid of it. Anyway, he fixed that field and now that thing's growing over 200 and some odd bushel of corn. And when he started, it wouldn't grow over 130. He's also coming to my meeting on December 14th to explain. He said to me one time, I said, well, you've been farming a long time. He says, no, I've been trying to farm for a long time. I've been farming for 3 years, ever since I met you. I'm like, oh, that kind of hurt. That was awesome. First compliment I ever had. Okay, so how are we doing this? Calcite. So the pH scale is a must. You must obey that. But we're also, every time you do business in our philosophy, we're going to give you structure. Look at these holes. And it's surrounded by calcium. So the holes are filling with water. Our stuff, everything we sell holds water. Which, this year wasn't that great of a deal, I'm saying. But most years are dry. They're not wet like this. So all I'm saying is, when the organisms go past here, there's this calcium. There's calcium's right here. The microorganisms are in there hiding from the other predators, like nematodes and protozoa. They're hiding. These other guys are hiding in here. So they use that atmosphere of the energy of the calcium to convert mineral that's not ready to go into a plant gets converted when it gets into this atmosphere, and they hide in here. And so this is synthetic. So that you can't have this one. But I needed to throw it up there anyway, because this is my conventional bomb. Okay? This one is organic. Same scenario. You got to realize this is, these are very, very close pictures. And look at all the surface, miles of surface, miles. So anytime we're working with somebody, we make sure that Sims, this is where Lawrence comes in, this is where he charges me way too much to work with me, but I'm trying to get through it, is he takes care of all of that. Everybody that wants to sell me something, fine, we'll take a look at it. And we tear it apart. If you hand me something, I'll guarantee you'll have an X-ray fraction, it'll have a geochemical, and it'll have a sim. Because if it doesn't have holes in it, I don't sell it. If it isn't like a sponge, I don't want it. Okay? I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. And then the other thing is we work with humic acid and humic product. Why? Because of all the great information about humics. Okay, so I have a very good source, and I buy direct. And I had to go they made me go out and fish walleyes as part of my meeting out there to get the contract. So that was painful, but I got through it. Anyway, something Lawrence and I have always talked about is humic substance's ability to sequestrate hard metal. And they believed they roll them into a ball. Because some people say, well, it chelated it. This is chelation. And then it can come back off. Sequestrating is totally encompassed, like a ball. We don't know this, because this is a very, 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 very small particle. Is this that? Only a question, because we don't know the answer, but is this what these two things are? It found something and developed. And, well, how could they do it? How does a mud wasp put a little house on your house? It just takes them all day. So there's bugs like that in there too, I suppose. But anyway, they roll it into a ball. So this actually looks like this is humic structure also. It's actually liquid. That went through a nozzle. But it's a very, 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 magnified. But look at all the structure. Miles and miles and miles of structure. How is Paul winning? How are my organizations winning? Because we understand that, and we obey the pH to CEC ratio, and we know the laws of nature. And that is, it takes life to create life. And then once you create life, they need a house to hide in. If you want to experience it, stand out in your field for like a year, as opposed to staying in your house. How good are you going to do? Just saying. It's the same thing. They need a place to hide. Here's another product, calcite and gypsum structure. So look at all the surface. Okay? All the surface. This particular product is not organic. The gypsum is not organic. But for the conventional people, this thing is the bomb. Because it's sulfur on a rock, not sulfur in a rock. And it breaks down fast. We have other tricks for the organic side. We buy an organic sulfur, put it in compost. Look at this. The crystals. And then these got to be little pieces of sulfur stuck to it. Got to be. But still, holes. This is like, I don't know, it's like 50,000 or 100,000 magnification. This is really sucked in there close. And still structure. Still. Miles. But yet, this is what we do. What I've told you is calcite. But this is what we actually do. That's ground lime. And that's high calcium lime. Those holes aren't very deep. That's not a lot of crystallization. Look at these little Lone Rangers. There's one, Where I was showing you before was just massive. That's how I'm winning. I'm grossly, grossly outnumbered you. And I think that's kind of cool. So I still use this in emergencies. When you want to do business with the way we're doing business, you have to obey the pH to CEC ratio. And if your ground's too acidic for our program to take off, there's no sense in buying biology and then killing it. It's no different than a cow. If you have a cow that goes acidic, you don't feed her DFM. You feed her grass and hay, dry hay, straw. And once she settles down, then you re-inoculate the bacteria. Correct? Same code. This is a pill. This is a means to an end. It helps us get to where the microbes, in our experience so far, they're bringing the CECs down and the pHs up, and the pHs down and the CECs up. How are they doing that? You know what? We're not watching them. We don't know. But we do know that they seem to be migrating towards the microbial neutral. They're bringing them down and bringing them up. And I have an unbelievable amount of samples to prove it. But you know what? We need to just trust that what I'm telling you is real, and you're getting it for free. Well, anything you get for free ain't worth nothing. Today it is. Here's a big gypsum. This is mine gypsum. I don't know if you see any surface on there, like all this, like the top of my head, bald. Okay? And you look at it does have some crystallization. It does have some energy to it. So I'll give you that. But compared to what I showed you, who's going to win? I'm going to win. I outnumber you by quite a bit. So we don't use this. We don't use gypsum. Even organically, we don't use it. We use the natural or the organic sulfur into a compost, get it eaten there and spread out, and then we bring it. Instead of just throwing little pills out there. So anyway, this is what I believe. Okay? This is what I believe. I believe that there's a code. And the earth was designed. We must trust in the one who made it. That's my opinion. And this earth can produce much more than we are doing now. Much more. The only reason people have famines is not because the earth didn't have the ability to feed them. It was political or it was money. You got to realize that. This earth can produce all the food we need, and we need to quit being scared. So you can live your life, live in faith or fear. You pick that every single day. I choose faith. I'm a very positive mover, moving positively forward. When I fall down, I get up, a little slower now, but I get up and I go again. Okay? When you have a bad day, that's just a bad day. Chalk it up for experience, move forward. That's who I am. The other thing that our companies, my partners, and me personally, what we do is we're not building ivory towers. I have a nice boat, but the money's not going to that. The money is paying our employees and doing things and keeping the business going. What my companies do is we sponsor these. And these are CDs. They're educational CDs for high school kids from 15 to 18, based off of creation. I've looked at them, and they cross all denominations. The man is so good at being subtle that it shouldn't offend anybody that has, there's only 3,000 denominations, I think. But anyway, it shouldn't offend anybody. But it goes back to the fact that this didn't evolve, that it was created. I'm not going to argue with God. He said he did in 6 days. You take it up with him. I'm just going to go with it, okay? So, and actually, for the first time, I met him. And his name is Wes Olson, and his wife is Tammy. And I believe they're in the room somewhere. Yep, right back there. And so what is really cool, and by the way, I have these. I think they're like $75, $80 a piece. If there's somebody you know that's homeschooling, here's 2 sets. I will give them to somebody that needs them. Don't just take them and then try to sell them and then buy the stuff, whatever. Look what he's doing. You know why he's here? To meet with Lawrence Mayhew and me, so that he can put into these CDs for these children to understand how to grow crop in the future so we never get fooled again. So the investments that my partners are doing and myself is we're investing into the children with what we succeed at so that they can be taught another way to farm than what we're doing right now. That's what we're doing. And I'm excited about it. This is the greatest, coolest thing I get to do in my life, is to help farmers and then educate the next generation. That's cool.